Everybody, welcome to Simply Cyber Live. The mute button does work. So if you bought a weapon for home defense, you likely wouldn't just buy it, stick it in the closet, report to your homeowner's insurance. Oh yeah, we've got a weapon, no big deal, we're covered, we're covered. And the first time you figure out whether or not it actually works is when you need to use it. That sounds like an obviously terrible idea. Well, let's translate that into the actual cybersecurity community. Would you buy a bunch of tooling, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars? Yes, you're absolutely going to crush that compliance audit. But when a bad guy kicks in your front door or uses a GIND LDAP and moves right through, no big deal, through your web apps, is that when you're going to find out whether your tooling actually works? Absolutely not. And if it is, you really don't want that, right? So what we're talking about today, people who are friends of Simply Cyber, part of the squad, you guys know Arien Seghetti. He was on a couple weeks ago. We're talking about operationalizing purple team, and we talked about what that looks like functionally. Well, today, let's take it one step further. Let's talk about tooling. Let's give real examples. Let's detonate malware, ransomware malware. Let's use Log4j. Let's go buck wild up in here. It's a tech demo, so please, get your chickens, get your sense, whatever you got to do in order to pray to the tech gods. We're going to have a smooth transition, but let's get into it. Let's have a good time, and let's bring Arien into the studio. What's up, Arien? How you doing, man?
Hey, Gerald, doing well, doing well.
Awesome. All right, now you guys all know the rules. If you want to drop a question and have Arien and I answer, bring it up on screen. Just go ahead and drop a Q at the beginning so we know that it's for us. I know chat, you guys love talking with each other, sharing knowledge, networking, and that is fantastic. That's what we're here for, to share knowledge. But I want to know if it's questions for us, so I'll bring it up. Again, really sincerely appreciate you guys being here live with us, taking the time to talk about immediate threat purple teaming. Now, Arien, again, thanks for coming back on the show. Before we get into the demo and just dive in and start blowing up stuff, can we talk a minute about, I guess, what is the business value that's different about purple teaming, about this continuous security control validation that we're talking about?
Yeah, so funny thing is, actually, I want to address exactly what you talked about very first, right? Which was getting the weapon and reporting. I'm actually at a security conference here in Orlando and checking every single day and for the last 3 days, and I was not able to go and build the ultimate weapon down the street, a lightsaber. There was no available appointments. I was like, but no. So good question. Is, from a business perspective, what is purple teaming actually providing to you? What we're seeing a lot more so is the ability for, again, like we talked about last time, is this is a red teamer and a blue teamer actions coming together and being able to feed a continuous loop a lot more, right? So what we're actually providing is a security posture management, or security posture understanding, or assessments, or whatever we want to call it. What we're doing is we're taking an ability to run an attack, a real attack like we're talking about right now, understand how it works in our environment, right? So like we'll be talking about later, is we want to understand exactly what are all of the steps. How does purple teaming actually feed the business? It actually informs them on a continuous basis, right? If we're doing compliance, great, let's do our pen test once a year, right? That informs the business that we have compliance by doing that once a year check. It informs the technology side by showing them what the vulnerabilities are or where they can get in. But that really is, it's a really good compliance side, or business compliance side. But from a business to be able to take action and to be able to be comfortable, right? Risk adverse, the big log4j, I will call it like it's supposed to be, log4j. And a lot of business people are up in arms right now. What's going on? Are we affected? Are we going to be down? If we have to wait till a pen test, or we go ahead and patch and we're not sure, are we still vulnerable? This is where purple teaming comes into effect. You take an area, you purple team it. You say specifically, I'm going to test and make sure that we're good, so that I can give you assurance, business person, we're good, we're taken care of. We worked our 24 hours, don't worry. We didn't stop, coffee was flowing, but we really were able to make an assurance for you to be able to come back in the next day and be risk averse and understand, yeah, we're good, let's keep going forward.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point there about the business. So, like to use Log4j, which is an excellent item. Like, by the way, like thanks Alibaba researcher for knowing that we were going to be doing this talk on Thursday and releasing this last
Yeah.
Friday. So, what's interesting is, John Hammonds has got that Huntress tool, and there's a couple. I know Integer dropped a script just earlier today for
Hmm.
Linux-based systems. So there's some systems out there to just identify if you actually have it, and then, I feel like there's some, false negatives there where you're like, well, or we don't have it, like it doesn't show up, but you can't prove a negative. So just because the tooling or the script doesn't find it, how like what level of certainty, what level of confidence do you have? I mean, maybe it's really embedded, maybe it's baked into something, maybe it's not enabled
Yep.
at this moment, but it turns on every hour. I don't know. But this is when you're telling the business we're safe from this. We don't have it in our ecosystem. In fact, like I said something similar to that earlier today. And not being able to know definitively is, it's risk, right? And I
Yeah.
guess working in this field, we get used to having some level of risk. But if you could do something about it, if you could actually validate by exploiting,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you in a controlled way? So I definitely agree 100% that there is massive business value. Like I think to me, it's more like, yeah, there's value to the business. So you can say we're secure. And I know that that's what they care about. But as a cybersecurity practitioner, especially since I'm an information security leader, like I want to be able to sleep at night knowing, okay, this is not a risk. This is not a threat that we have to be worried about at this particular time. And again, the timing of it is fantastic because that pen test we did 6 months ago definitely didn't check for Log4j
Yep.
exploitation. So I guess kind of, to pivot a little bit, right? When we talk about pen testing and red
Hmm.
teamers and stuff, I mean, that's a really niche field, really specific skill set. And I love my red teamers. But when you have tooling that does continuous validation, which we're going to be looking at today, which by the way, I think is fantastic with all due respect to the red teamers, speed is valuable. Um, what's a red teamer to do? Like basically, are the robots taking are the robots here to take our jobs?
So I would say no, never. What we're doing here is we're looking at how automation can help us, right? Is we have to sleep, and that's what it comes down to. Is we have to sleep. But that's not to say that when we're sleeping, the robots are taking over. What that's saying is we're going to take advantage of automation to actually achieve more in our job, right? One of the things is you were talking about being an information security leader, talking about business perspective. I look at this as an opportunity to walk back into the board and say, our red team actually ran 400 tests or something like that, right? 400 tests this afternoon alone, evaluating all 400 of our systems, utilizing an automation tool set so that I could walk into the board and say definitively, our risk is very low, right?
Mhm.
I can't say it's 100% risk free because nothing is 100% risk free. But if I could definitively say our risk is low, it enables them to go forward. And without tooling, maybe in an afternoon we might be able to run 4, 5, 6 tests, right? But if I could take tooling to set this up, automate it exactly the way that we're supposed to be doing it, exactly the way that a red teamer wants it to be done, they could then go across 1,000 systems, 10,000 systems in such a short amount of time that they don't have to necessarily just say, well, we did a sampling of one, so we're good, right? No, let's do everything. let's do it. Let's templatize it. Let's run it all the time. And then at that point is give me all the results back. Is there a variance? Now I can look for a variance over 400. Well, there was one over here, or there was one over here, right? Something like that, as opposed to I ran it 5 times, I didn't see any differences. And so now the red teamer actually becomes a lot more valuable to the organization to say, you gave me the right tool sets before I had to create my own, right?
Mhm.
I had to, grab some Python code over here, or go grab this over here. I couldn't integrate with anything. I couldn't pull these things. And now what we're saying is utilize a platform, take that tooling, automate it, and you just made yourself a lot more valuable to the entire organization.
Yeah, and I think One of the challenges that I see personally, again, like, I do have a day job. It's not just Simply Cyber. One of the challenges I see, or I've heard, and Chad, I'm curious if you guys have heard this too. Like, oh, we're not going to get a pen test because we know that they would find everything, or we're not going to pay for a pen test because they would just knock everything down. Like, we're not ready yet. Like, we're so vulnerable that it wouldn't be worth it to get a pen test. And pen tests can be as cheap as 15 grand. Some of the bigger
Yeah.
ones, if you're a larger organization, 45, 60 grand. But the point is, I don't know if anyone else has had this conversation, but I've had it multiple times across my career where it's like, there's no point in getting a pen test. That's for advanced programs. That's when you're mature enough to get it. And I think that there is a real opportunity here, for something like this, where, yes, you're not going to get the red team pen test to come in because you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to sell it yourself to the board because you don't even believe in it yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
that it's going to have value. But then on the other side, you're sitting there with, this weapon that we talked about at the beginning with no idea if you didn't know that weapons needed ammo, and you're going to find out when it's time to use it. That's a concern, right? You probably need to know that, the safety's on. I think that there is a lot of interest and value. I'd also say, Arien, I'm kind of curious with this particular tooling or tooling in general. you know, I like to think that red teamers, let's say commodity attacks, the things that they're doing all the time,
Yeah.
LLMNR, pass the hash, these things, they get bored with. It's not interesting. They probably have canned reports that dump out those things. I feel like tooling will take care of the commodity attacks and the immediate threats that get developed instantly. But then that frees your red team up to be able to actually do the more crafty, the more innovative things. And I think you might even be able to engage penetration testers to find their passion again, especially the ones who have been grinding for 15 years and are just this is not fun anymore. Are you seeing
Yeah.
that?
Oh, absolutely. It's as I'm talking to more and more red teamers, and we talk about tooling. Really, one of their biggest concerns is they're passionless, because you don't create a good report. You don't see the effect of it. You really don't, because again, if it's the same thing over and over again, like you just talked about, they run it, they see it, it's canned, it worked. All of those things absolutely automate every single one of those things. Again, right? I set an alarm every day because I can automate that. That's how
Hmm.
I'm looking at it, right? I can automate that. I can do it. I'm going to do that there. I set different alarms throughout the day that automates a lot of my different things, right? And so the way that I see it is, let's get all of that low hanging fruit, the stuff that you're doing every single day. I harken back to when I was a pure network person, right? And I had one of the first guys that I hired was really good with Python, and it just he was really strong with it, and he said, "Let me show you what I can do with Python scripting in the network." And I said, "Well, usually this is the different kinds of things we're trying to do." And he goes, "Okay, great. Show me, let's build it out." And the things we were doing every single day, he wrote a script, a Python script. It went, it checked it, it ran it, it did it every single day. And it wasn't just a simple cron job, right? This was a real Python script that was running all of these different things that I needed. It would take an hour and a half for my other guys to go and do every single day. He said, "I wrote that." And I saw that, and I immediately looked at all my other people. I said, "You're going to get Python scripting classes." I paid for it, right? So I was fortunate. I was in the opportunity that I could do that, right? And so I did that, and that's how I look at this too, right? From tooling perspective, I want everyone to be able to take all of those things you're doing every single day. Let the computers do it, right? Let them handle those simple tasks. That's what they were created for. Let's use it. So
Hmm.
I look at it and I say, okay, now what are the more interesting things? What are those things that take a while? You got to think about it. You got to put your thinking cap back on, and you got to really test it out too. Is it successful? How would now you can put your attacker hat back on instead of putting your standardized hat back on. Standard, got to report on this because somebody one time told me I had to. Let's put that attacker hat back on, be a pure red teamer, a true red teamer, and then you start those attacks. And then you're getting to that point where you're excited again. And now you can, go across the aisle into the blue team. Hey guys, I'm excited again. Let's do something great.
Absolutely, yeah. And I just want to point out real quick, the importance of Python and programming. I'm looking at you, Peter McKinnon, who just recently took on learning coding and has actually been crushing it. But just, I wanted to give a shout out to him. One funny thing that just came up, Bob in chat drops here about asking for a partial refund because the pen test from 6 months ago missed log4j. Like so true, right? I mean, what level
Yeah,
of assurance or what kind of guarantee do you get from the pen test team, right? That whatever.
This is funny. I saw something funny. I think it was Monday, and again, right, I'm in the security sales, OEM space, and I saw someone say they saw on LinkedIn 40 different security companies saying we have a fix for Log4j, and he said that's great. Where have you been for the past 8 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's true, right? It's been out there. We just finally discovered it, and it's just funny when we think about it from that perspective too. It's again yeah, we came out and we said something on Friday and Saturday and Sunday and Monday we have something, right? But again, it goes back to that whole point of can you get your refund? Yeah, maybe, who knows? Maybe they'll send you a Starbucks card.
Yeah, the only vendor or quote unquote vendor that pushed a patch out for Log4j on Monday that I had high confidence in was the NSA pushing one to Ghidra. Like they pushed a patch out. I said, yep, they knew exactly what to fix.
Right. And they've probably known for years too.
Exactly. So Arien, like let's kind of set us up. Like what are we like? Let's get into the demo and what are we? I guess like build the scenario. Like what are we doing?
Absolutely. So today what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at what we call immediate threat purple teaming. So there's a couple of different stages here, right? There's the identifying, that there is a vulnerability out there, or there's something is being attacked, right? So there's a few different stages that we go through, in life, but in cybersecurity specifically. So we're going to take this from kind of the identifying it. Okay, there's something out there. Now, can we validate that that we have it, right? So I don't validate that you have it. I can. I absolutely can. I'm not a scanner or anything like that. I could build it. I can show us, and we actually have one built into our platform. We released that as well on Monday. But that's not what we primarily do. What we're going to primarily do here is we're going to say, all right, there's a threat out there. Our attacker's actually utilizing that threat. And then once I identify where do my controls specifically sit. So if the board comes to me and says, hey, I heard about this big threat, are we protected or not? Well, we're going to do one of two things, right? Is there's the vulnerability side, which is, the system administrators, they have to go do their patching. They have to take care of that. What we're going to do is we're going to look at it from the other side is, well, does your defense in depth actually stop that or not? So we're going to start there. We're going to actually show you how you can actually validate. Maybe it's a web application that you want to validate. Is it still vulnerable? Maybe it is a scan that you want to build, right? So we're going to do a few different things. We're going to check our defense in depth. We're going to see how we can look at this from a web application perspective. We're also going to look and see how could I build something very specific to test just specifically for that as well. So three different ways to do this.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, if you want to share your screen, we'll bring it up while I give some thoughts here too. So, another thing that Arien mentions is, okay, so we're going to check your defense in depth. We're going to see, if your controls stop the attack. I'd also think, for me personally, being a practitioner, like I want to see if my tooling detects it, right? So if my controls don't stop it, that sucks. But at least do I know? If the tooling doesn't stop it and I don't see it, that's a big problem, because now we're talking about persistence. We're talking, especially in Log4j, everybody is taking a turn like I'm the community bicycle or something like that. And I'm not interested in that. You know what I'm saying? So, I like how it checks, kind of the entire range of, protection detection controls.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Right. And that's what we're going to do is, so we're going to start with that there's a threat out there. Okay. So that's where we start with when we talk about purple teaming. What we're looking for is really, in this case, we're actually reversing this process. So there's a threat out there. So now the blue team is actually looking at it to see, do I actually have the right things to stop this? My defense in depth, my defenders themselves, we're actually going to reverse the process. Normally, it's the red team. When we talk about purple teaming, we talk about red teamers doing something. Purple team is getting the output itself. We're talking about specifically, did you see this thing? Let's yes or no. Okay, here's the
Hmm.
output. Let's try it again. This case, we're going to reverse it. So there's a threat out there, and in this case, what we have from our threat intelligence feed is we've got right down here log4j, and what we're going to do here is we're actually going to look and test against specific indicators of compromise. You can see these different file types themselves, and we do the heavy lifting. We provide all of this for you, right? You got these file types. You've got different IPs out here that you can test for and test against. So that's where we start. We'll do this. Let's just do it
Arien,
live.
really quick, those IP addresses, are those known
Yeah,
IP addresses that are maliciously scanning for the log4j vulnerability? Is that what that means?
absolutely. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
So
All right.
these are the attackers' infrastructure right here.
Okay.
Yep. And we're constantly, and for this one specifically, we are constantly updating it. We do this as well. You can see emotet here. There's a few more down here too, more emotet, but we constantly update this. This is put out every single day,
Yeah.
as well as
Well,
just updated every single day.
Well, as an interesting, plug, I guess, for those of you who have been joining me in the mornings at 8 a.m. for First Things First, for the cyber daily briefing, we talked about this morning about how Emotet, Microsoft is popping that Emotet's back with a 0-day. So, yeah, very timely.
Awesome. Okay. So, when you start taking a look at this, so right now, this is really the first incident of this. It probably definitely won't be the last. I mean, I think we've seen just in the last few days, right, is the very
Hmm.
first patch didn't work. Did the second patch work? We're still kind of trying to wonder. Um, but so what we'll do is we'll continue to update this as we find more and more.
Hmm.
And we have what we call our Autorun feature. So going back to this, what we'll do is we'll do it live for you. Let's just go ahead and grab one.
And
Let
let
me
me
find
ask you
one.
right now. So, just from a topology perspective, this is a cloud, but I mean, are we talking like agent based? Are we talking cloud to cloud? Like, what's the kind of the topology look like of what we're
Yeah,
working with here?
absolutely. So what you're seeing right here is this is a tenant. So this is a cloud tenant. We're a SaaS service.
Okay.
What we're going to do is we actually do have an agent deployed. Let me find one that's online. Let's go ahead and find one. Let's see here. It's in default laptop. Okay, cool. And so there is an agent installed. The way that we work is it's very few agents. I know we don't like to hear agents. It's kind of a bad word, right, if you will. But what
I
we'll
don't
see,
mind hearing agents. My system administrators don't like hearing the word agents. I'll
there
put
we
agents
go.
for everything. I'll agent everything up.
um, so what we do is we'll put an agent out there. It's usually just a handful, right? Just roughly about a handful or so.
Hmm.
And that agent itself it's a dumb agent, and so it's going to actually, it calls back to our cloud, and then it says, what do you want to do? In this case, we want to test for any one of these here, right? So let me again see why this is not popping up. Of course, live, I can switch to another one which I know is live. um, and we'll do that in a sec. Is basically is that agent is now going to evaluate, in this case for log4j, it's going to evaluate your endpoint and your gateway. And what we're going to do is we're going to write those file types to the actual agent, to the endpoint itself. We're going to say, does your AV actually identify this file type as log4j, a malicious file, right? It's going to be sitting there for about 2 minutes. If it does, delete it. The next thing we're going to do is, if you go back again to those IOCs, agent is going to download that file. It's going to try to reach out to these websites, and it's going to then go ahead and tell you. It's a very binary answer. Did your defense in depth actually stop this or identify it, right? So you can go back to your logs, you can pull those things and see, right? We actually can pull those in with our integrations, depending upon what you have. These are just the ones that are live in my environment, but I could
Hmm.
actually grab those and say, all right, Azure Sentinel, did you see me write this? Did you see me pull it down? All of these different things. So it goes back to what you said about visibility, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and let me see if I
Professor
can
Black
move.
Ops wants to know what permissions is the agent running under?
So the agent itself can run under normal permissions. To
Okay.
install, I do need administrative permissions to install it and run it, but just a normal user permissions can run it. Let's go ahead and find one here again. There we go. All right, we're just going to launch that. Okay, that is launched. That is doing its job right now. It's going to evaluate my firewall. It's going to see, did I actually stop this? Did it allow me to go to those URLs? It's also going to write it to disk, and it's going to go ahead and tell me, is it actually, and you can see it's actually popping up right here. So it's going to tell me, did it actually delete the file, or did Simulate have to delete the file? So it's going to try to go, it's going to tell me both things, which is great, right? So now I have that understanding. I have that binary answer. I have the ability to know where I stand. And if I need to, I can go back and I can then take my stance, right? And you'll see this, it should take no more than a few minutes to run this thing live. And we'll go back and see the reports.
So just to summarize my understanding, Arien, what it's doing right now is it's actively exploiting a vulnerable version of Log4j app, right? And
in this case, no. We'll get to that in 1 second. Yes.
Okay. So as far as writing the file, I guess yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No. That's a good question. That's the next step that we'll go to. Right? Is so what this is doing is actually taking the attacker files that they're utilizing to actively exploit. So we're just taking that file, putting it on disk, and seeing if your AV identifies it. So these are active attackers.
I see.
Yep.
And what kind of network connection is being, like, I see the network connection going out to the IOC, so to the actual attacker infrastructure. What kind are those, just like, curl commands, or what is it?
Absolutely. Yep. So there's no browser involved whatsoever. It is just the agent itself doing a curl command of an HTTP put. And so we're checking to see, are they online or offline? You actually can see, and we'll see this in the report. Good job, service providers out there. They're taking down these attackers' infrastructure already. You can see that some of these are offline. One of them is still up and running, though. You can actually
and just as a quick aside, well, this is going to be easy to see. I know some people are mentioning that obviously this is not perfectly designed for demo presentation. So for smaller things, I will call them out to you guys just to let you know what it is we're looking at. I mean, you don't need to see what the IP is, just to know that it's IP, right? And yes, Matt, this will be available on replay indefinitely until YouTube gives me a community strike again.
I heard about that.
I'm not sour. I'm fine. So, okay, please continue.
Yeah. So what we're doing here is we're showing you. So this was the active thing, right? Is we reached out. You can see these ones that are broken here. That just means that the infrastructure has been taken down. So we tried to reach out. These are taken down. That's a good thing. Let's take those out now. All right. So now we have either we penetrated or we didn't. In this case, I tried to these file types. They're actually in the Simulate cloud. So you're not actually reaching out to the attacker themselves, trying to download these malicious files. You're reaching out to Simulate itself. So in this case,
thank you.
I was successful, right? I could pull the file type down. My firewall did not block it. Now I can tell you specifically the reason why. I don't have SSL decryption turned on in my lab. I just don't have a powerful enough firewall at my house where my lab is to run this.
Right. Well, and a lot of organizations aren't doing SSL decryption for various reasons. So, I mean, this is a completely plausible scenario.
Yeah. But my firewall should have identified this IP as malicious and stopped me from going to it. It did not. I'm going to have to go have a talk with my firewall when I get home tonight. So in this case, right, this is still an active IP. I was able to get to that attacker infrastructure. So I am potentially vulnerable now. So the first thing that I would do then is I would go here and I would add this to my dynamic block list, right? So I'm taking the steps necessary, the blue team side of the house, I'm taking the steps necessary to actually go ahead and block that. And that's what I would do. The second thing you're seeing down here, though, is the good thing is my endpoint did identify all three of these file types as malicious and deleted it immediately. That's what the green means. The green means it was blocked.
Okay. Now,
All right.
yeah, I mean, I've seen some instances where, the malware or the file comes down, runs, and deletes itself in that split second as a race condition before the EDR can delete it.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in that situation? I mean, is there reporting back or a simulate seeing whether or not the file gets deleted or when it gets deleted?
Absolutely, yes. So we're monitoring that file type because we know we're the one pulling it down, right? So we
Mhm.
know it. We know exactly what it's doing. We're watching it. We're monitoring everything about it, including every action that the EDR is taking as well. So we're going to
Okay.
watch that. We're going to pull that data as well. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and switch
So I saw
back
that threat
to.
assessment completed.
Yep. So that was just the finalization of the report itself. So this, what we looked at here, was the live logs updating. Right. You can see I got a 17% here. I got a score of 17 out of 100, meaning I'm actually fairly secure. Even though I was able to get to this here, I'm actually able to. I'm blocking these on the endpoint, so I'm actually fairly secure from that perspective. The
So
finalization was just
the
a.
lower the score, the better,
Yes,
basically.
and yeah, the way that we think about it is this: a high number equals a high risk, a low number
Okay.
equals a low risk.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. um, but to your point about actively exploiting, let's go ahead and look at how we could do that. I don't know if I have. I don't have an active website that I'm allowed to attack. Um, let's check. So when we talk about actively doing this, right, is if you have a web application that you want to assess, we actually have a command injection that will actually assess this, right? So it's a real command injection. It's the full log4j. We're just not actually doing something afterwards. What we're going to
Mhm.
test though is the strength of your security in front of that. That would be the next thing. So let's just say it's a web application firewall. Let's refresh here. One sec.
So while you're bringing that up, a question came in I want to talk about real quick. IO Bro asked if we could use Log4j as a reason to increase funds for security and corporation in the future. 100%. I think the real challenge is here that you need to be able to tell the story in a way that the business can consume that you need funding and why you need funding. And two things I'm going to say. One, I know Mick Douglas on LinkedIn released a free PowerPoint briefing that you can give to executives and cater it for your way so you can get your own money. And then also just to tie nicely in and segue back into what Arien's doing right here, if you can show that your current security controls are not preventing log4j exploitation, and then you can turn around and say like, look, it's on like by the end of this week, early part of next week, it's going to be on like daytime talk shows and Fox News and CNBC. Like it's going to be normal talking points. They're going to know about it. So if you can say, yeah, we're vulnerable to it, and this is what we need, X, Y, and Z. You should reroute funds and actually take people off existing projects and put them on this because this is a big deal. And again, so please continue, Arien. I just love that you can show definitively that you are or are not vulnerable, and how bad you are if you are vulnerable.
Yeah, I just wish that as these things would happen, they probably can't happen more in a September timeframe, for especially most of us in cybersecurity, so we could get our budget request in before the budget requests have closed. That'd be a
Hmm.
great thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're going 2 years now. If you think about it, is we're 2 years in a row. We're literally it came out a couple of days before the anniversary of the dreaded solar winds, right? Some of my
Hmm.
support people hate when I say solar winds in general, but if you
Hmm.
think about it, I mean, we're 2 years in a row now. This is now it's a trend, right? That's a trend. So we should be able to talk about those things. But like I said here is let's see if I have an active website. What we've done here is this is a web application firewall or web application security assessment. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to inject the log4j attack. So let's go ahead and build one out, and we'll call this SimplyCyber. And I'll just pick some, I don't care about those things. So it's a command injection. This is really what it is, of how you start, right? And we'll just come down here. And we're going to save that. This is a template now. It's saved. I have it. It's 7 different payloads that we're going to inject. Let's see if I have something online. Doesn't look like I do there. Let me try my other side here. This might work. I apologize if it doesn't. This is my test environment one. Let's see if it does. Either way,
By the
what we're
way,
doing here. Go ahead.
I do appreciate the default dark mode, by the way. You know, being a longtime tech guy and security practitioner, I appreciate that. That I feel like you listened to my feedback, you know?
Yep. It was funny. About 2 years ago, I started seeing it just kind of pop up, and every single time I was in front of another vendor and they were trying to pitch to me and things like that, every time I saw the dark mode, I was like, okay, now you have my interest. Does your
Yeah.
product actually work? You listened, but does your product actually work? But now
Yeah.
I'm listening further, right? So let's go ahead and see.
Yeah.
All right, it said it finished. I don't know if it did or not. I don't know if that website's online. I don't think it was. Yeah. So it finished trying is basically what it was trying to do. That website isn't online. Well, what it's going to do is, unfortunately, I apologize. I don't have any websites online from my lab that I can actually use. But what that does is it actually sends the injection itself, and it's going to test and evaluate, does your security identify that this is a malicious injection, first and foremost, and what is the response, right? Because you would expect, if I am vulnerable, and let's say I had a 404 is my typical, my default error response, right? If I am actually able to get to a site, then it's just proved to you, just like you said, were we actually able to circumvent your security tools? How strong were they? Those kinds of things. So that's kind of that's where what we're proving is, one, that we could actually inject this. It can get through your application security and actually land. And guess what? I got a payload of 200. So that's what that actually does, is that's a specific scenario. It's a web application assessment that comes from our cloud, right? This is external. So it comes from our cloud and is actually able to send that specifically.
Yeah. So, you know, I know we talked earlier about how, you know, red teams can use this kind of tooling in order to, you know, do the heavy lifting, if you will, so they can be more knowledge workers. Um, you know, as you're doing this, I'm thinking about my own, you know, personal environment that I'm responsible for guarding and protecting. And I was just thinking, like, if I ran this and it came back as successfully exploited, like, you know, because I have a small team, like I have the ability to go in and modify the tool, modify the defensive controls today, like right now, and rerun it. You know what I mean? Like I almost see
Yeah.
it as, I mean, it's not, it's much more beautiful than a bash script, but to me, it's very much the same where you're like, run it. What's the result? Run it. What's the result?
Yeah. So this is exactly, and I don't even know. We didn't even. By the way, everyone, we really didn't plan this, but the way that Gerald was talking, I immediately switched to a different module, which is exactly what you're talking about, right? From a red teamer perspective, is I can take this. Now, this is the actual, right? If I come in here, and this is the scan itself that's going to utilize. Now, right here, it just happened to be, you know, one of our internal sites, but you could change it to one of your internal web pages and test for those things. So this is what you would do. And if you think about this too, it's as you're going forward, because, you know, with the way that we're so agile today, and we're building in this, you know, continuous improvement, continuous development pipeline. Who's to say that somebody doesn't pull that old Apache library, right, when they're building something new? You know, hopefully they're all being taken down. Hopefully it's not going to be accessible anywhere out there, but we don't know, right? And so this is what you would do, is you would utilize this, or in general, right, is any red teamer, they should be now checking for this every day. You know, I've got here's my production ones. I want to make sure that these ones are safe. So I set up a script and I'm checking every single day, no matter what, because that now becomes something that I want to push to the side. Let the computers take care of it. Let the scripts, let the automation take care of it. and let me know
Yeah.
when there is a deviation, right?
Yeah,
And that's
I
what this
hate to
is.
sound like a like buzzword bingo from 2007, but it's a force multiplier. Like get your card ready. But like that's really what it is. Like I'm just thinking about this, and it's really a force multiplier, and it's really because of the automation, the power of the automation.
Right. And so here, right? So I'll just put that one in there. Now what we're doing is we're actually pulling this. So this is an internal test, right? So what we showed you was so far is we've gone through two ones. The first one we did was, does my web security, does my signature based things, right?
Hmm.
How is my defense in depth, identifying an attack that's out there? Is the security control that I utilize, is it good enough? Is it strong enough? Is my subscription or my updates, all of those kinds of things, right? That's answering one question. The second thing we went over, right, was okay, now I'm going to actually inject this externally from an external source to test, am I still vulnerable? And then lastly, what I'll show you here is the ability for you to, okay, well, now let's look internally, right? Let's solve the external first, right? That's what that web application was, is you solve the external first, then we go internal. Now let's see if we're vulnerable internally, right? For servers that aren't, forward facing or internet facing. And that's
Hmm.
what this would do. It actually pulls down from Simulate again, right? Is you're able to pull it down here. It's going to sit on that agent we talked about, and it's going to run this specific execution. Now you could actually go ahead and grab this, run this in a Python script on your host itself, and it would do the exact same thing if you had the resource. All right. If you don't have the resource, that's what Simulate does. Is we have all of these resources here collected. It just happens to be in our S3 buckets. But then it writes it, and then you're testing and you're evaluating, right? So now you're looking at this, the Log4j vulnerability scanner, and you're going to actually look at it. All right, now I'm scanning it. Now you want to do this on a daily basis, and you could set this up. This right here allows a red teamer to set this up to do a very specific thing, not like a vulnerability scan, but really more of a validation scan. Yes, we're still secure. Yes, we're still secure. Yes, we're still secure. And that's what we start answering from a red team perspective. And they don't have to build that script, and you don't have to rely on your vulnerability scanner, but you actually can now build this into your automation. You're scheduled. I get my email every day. I come in, I drink my coffee, I look, yep, Log4j is still not able to be run. Cool. Right. And now I
Yeah,
can move on throughout my day.
So, I'm a huge fan of this methodology and this kind of approach to cybersecurity because it's just much faster. And one of the things that I've been talking about for a while now is, the bad guys move, very quickly, and they adapt, and and our current approach is very much more like monthly, if you can do that. Some of
Mhm.
these things are annual, like enterprise risk assessments and stuff, and to be able to do it daily, I think it's just so valuable. And again, like I don't sleep great all the time because of some of the things that I'm responsible for. And it also makes me think, like, anyone who currently works in a SOC or a knock and knows, like, the big eye candy glass walls are really not designed for us. They're designed for the executives who are bringing VIPs through, because no one's looking at the eye candy in order to tell what their job is. But like this, maybe not this interface right here per se, but that report you just said, that would be interesting, because the thing that's red that was green yesterday is something that warrants looking at. And
Yeah.
it just makes me think of, like, the eye candy wall finally having some value to the practitioners.
Absolutely, right. I think that there's a lot of value to be able to show drift. There's a lot of value to be able to show
Hmm.
consistency as well, right? Is I always talk about this to my customers. It's not just about the weaknesses and the vulnerabilities. Part of your job is to also promote your strengths. Always be promoting your strengths, right? Don't be bravado with it. Don't be overly confident. But part of what you're here to do is to promote, hey, we are strong in this area, we are vulnerable in this area, right? From a context perspective, people also need to know that we're strong in this area because this is the greatest amount of attack surface. That's why we're strong over here. Over here, we're a little bit weaker because it's very, very hard to get in, right? You think about vulnerabilities and it's the ability to exploit, right? Something may be very high, but if it's the ability to exploit is very low, yeah, how much do you really, concern yourself every single day with it, right? Let's
Hmm.
focus our attention. We only have so much where we can. And I think that you're right, is that looking glass. I like that. Um, if we can show we're strong over here and those things you see that are red over here, guess what? That's why our gaze is up here and that's where we're focusing on. And then that way you can actually, go back and show and prove, yep, everything you saw is true. And we are working on getting better.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We got a question in from IO Bro. I like this one. What will it take for the good guys to keep up with the bad guys running these type of exploits? Is it training? Is it salary? What are your thoughts on that, Arian?
So I think I like the salary one, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
um,
always more budget, please. Yeah.
right, exactly. Budget, salary, training, diversity, uh, uh, what's the phrase they use? Gatekeeping. One
Hmm.
of the things that I don't like to see in our industry, and it's probably less so than I think it's done out there, is we really have to encourage a lot more people to be part of the security team, right? Not the for sure security team, right? The defined security teams themselves, but having what I call security advocates, right? Those people
Hmm.
in their organization being very smart about that. But I absolutely believe is automation. I was talking to some government people, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, and they said, "What is the biggest issue?" And I don't know if we talked about this or not, or maybe we talked about it offline. Is the biggest issue they have isn't the budget to be able to acquire the tooling; it's their procurement process. The
Yeah.
ability to procure the right tool sets, procure the education to run it, procure the right people to run it is so long, comparatively speaking, to attackers that have all the time in the world and are using automation. They are utilizing cloud resources. They are utilizing their attacker friendly resources, right? So it's about making different, we can't just be in the basement anymore. We have to be very, I was actually at this conference that I'm at. One of the guys that was speaking was talking about taking the cybersecurity professionals and teaching them how to speak the professional language of the business. If you can speak the professional language of the business, they listen more. When they listen
Yeah.
more, their wallets open more. And that's a very point, we like to think so, but we've been
Yeah.
able to see it for sure. I definitely believe that. I think what we can do personally, right, for ourselves is that's the only thing we can control. Learn to speak the language of the business, learn to reach out and create security advocates for you in multiple different departments, and utilize those relationships and utilize your professional speaking to push the agenda of cybersecurity. Because otherwise, the attackers are always going to be ahead of us.
Yeah, and just to echo before we drop ransomware on this baby, with my thoughts when that comes up, I'm thinking right away, you got to realize that there's like many, 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 many attackers, and then there's you, right? And like the internet is the battlefield, and so we're never going to be as fast or as up to date. I mean, I will say that our dwell time and our time to remediate, all those things have come down dramatically over the last couple of years as we gotten more serious. But the other thing I want to point out, and if you are in a position where you're on a team but you're not making the financial decisions, and or you don't have influence in those decisions, you got to be cognizant that like CISOs and information security leaders and stuff, like they will get budget to buy new tools, new toys, new shiny things, right? Oh, it does this, it does that, it meets our needs, right? And that's a 3 6 month project, and there you go. You're able to report for the next two board meetings that you're kicking butt and you're just doing this. And in reality, and like a tool like this will show it, MITRE ATT&CK will show it. You might be buying a tool set for 250K that you already have covered with like three other tools. So many people I've talked to go into a new job and they look at the tool sets and they're like, what are you doing here? Like, why do you have so much duplicity in your tooling and you have major gaps over here, you fool? So I would say, be cognizant about buying tools that complement your existing security infrastructure, not making it redundant. Okay, sorry, Arien. I felt really passionate about that because
No,
it's like it's so hard to get money, and then when you see someone spending it on the same tooling, you're like, what are you doing, fool? Ugh. Okay,
yeah,
please.
no, I'm the same way. For years, I ran tools rationalization programs. Right, I would go into different customers. We would do tools rationalization, and they said, "No, no, no, we're good. We have what we need." And then I would show them, right, and I show them a framework. Here's the NIST cybersecurity framework. Here's where you align to all those things. And by the way, here's your 5 covered things all over each other. What?
Hmm.
No, yes. One, you may not know that you actually can just turn this on, or that you're already employing it, right? It's well, we needed this one. No, you just needed to turn on a subscription. So you didn't even
Yeah.
have to go through the whole approval. You already had it. Turn the subscription on, utilize it, something along those lines. And yeah, I'm very passionate about that too.
Absolutely. So can we detonate some malware up in here?
Sure, let's go ahead and let's see what we can do here. Let me go ahead
Oh,
and
I see you stopped
share.
sharing. Okay. Yeah.
Yep, let's go ahead and share out again. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of different things. We're going to go back to that first one where we saw immediate threats. Now, we ran the Log4j. One of the things I do want to point out is the Emotet, right? We mentioned it. It's back in the news. One of the things that I really like about is not just the ability, okay, let's look at it one time. You can see this here. This is just a couple of weeks ago, right? This was Emotet being utilized in Squirrel Waffle. Emotet just a few months back. This is something that I encourage a lot of customers and a lot of people to do is, yes, they've changed. Was there a big change from here to here? Maybe, maybe not. Let's rerun all of those things. Let's check our intelligence. Let's check our different tool sets. But now let's get to some of the fun things. So let's go ahead and ransomware an endpoint. Now, one of the things that I'm going to make a suggestion to my product team is creating a pop-up that says, insert your dog coin here. I love dog coin. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and, at the click of a button, I could run 300 different ransomware scenarios in your environment. This will encrypt data in your environment. Now, we do it safely. So
yeah, I wish I had a sound bit for like the record scratch. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you'll have to repeat that, Arien.
Yes, we could run 300 different, at the click of a button, 300 different ransomware scenarios in your environment. We do it safely, right?
Okay.
There's the difference the only difference between us and attacker is we do it safely, right? And we're not asking for the actual Bitcoin. And so, but what does safely mean? So we just chose Windows. I'm going to obfuscate a lot like a lot of attackers do, right? Is if I don't obfuscate this, there might be a signature out there for this attack already. So I'm going to obfuscate it. I'm going to pack it in 3 different ways. I'm going to use here's your MITRE techniques. I'm going to use a Stager downloader. I'm going to run let's do a MS Word macro, right? Yeah. And let's then go ahead, let me filter down to ransomware. And let's go ahead and drop in a remote key, right? So I can do some, you can see here, I'm actually going to call out to a command and control. Now, again, malicious behavior, right? You can see connect to a command and control server. That command and control, that's Simulate, right? So when we run this, we are attacking this agent, we're attacking this endpoint. We're going to create about 50 different files. We're going to create the folder. We're going to stuff them in there. And we're going to make sure, we're going to try to encrypt that. So we're going to check that EDR. How well does it do? Let's go ahead and click next.
Hey, Arien, really quick. Tom asked, is this a sandbox on Simulate or what are we,
Absolutely
what are
not.
we looking at? Yeah, okay.
This is running in production, in a production network, not a sandbox. So our agent is going to be sitting anywhere on your network. I actually have I call him my crazy customer. He has our agent sitting on his Active Directory domain controller. It is 100% safe. It's 100% okay. I personally just like my skin crawls knowing that he does that. Not that there's anything to risk. I just, 22 years in the industry, tells me, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You know, but there's no risk whatsoever. He runs it every single day, runs it all the time, nothing. So no targets, no selected there. Oh, that's right. In my old environment, I got to switch over to my other environment. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead
That's
and
okay.
grab this one here. And let's rebuild that again. This is a different environment, so I have to do this here. Again, this is a cloud tenant. These are what we call, it's a subtenancy. So we actually, this is our developer environment, and we get to play around a lot. Let's just build that again. Windows, packet, control downloader. What we do? I think a macro, right? Yeah. And then we're gonna run, where's the remote? There's a remote. So we're only gonna run one single scenario here. One scenario, we'll call this again, the SimplyCyber test. SimplyCyber malware.
Nice.
Or SimplyCymal. How about that?
That's
All
cool.
right, there you go. Okay, so we're gonna take this and we're gonna put it on an endpoint. It's right there. We're gonna go ahead and launch it. You're gonna actually see it. Let's see here, let's move this. Let's see endpoint. We're gonna actually watch and see what it does. Now, one of two things is gonna happen is the EDR that's sitting on here is going to either identify it. You can see this generating the scenario. It's a MS Word macro scenario. I know that there is Word on here, so at the very least, it won't die right away. But potentially the EDR itself might see it, and we're going to look at these steps in a moment in the actual report. What we're looking at is the live trace itself. So it's trying the first step. If it's successful in the first step, which it looks to me like it's probably not going to be successful, because usually I might have something already back. This is my EDR now is smart enough. It's seeing it. It's saying, no way. I identified that very first step and it killed it there. So that usually takes a couple of seconds before it moves on to the step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And so we're just going to let that kind of sit in the background, and we'll see if it actually is reporting over here yet. I don't think so. So far it's in progress.
Arien, does the tool, I mean, this is kind of a reach request, but does the tool, can you configure the tool to basically, can you automate it so as new immediate threats come in, they're just automatically tested in your environment? And so when you get to work with your cup of coffee, you know, over the weekend, even though you probably worked over the weekend on Log4j, let's just say you didn't, when you show up Monday, it could have already run, or is that level of automation not there yet?
Absolutely. So we have what we call our Autorun feature. So the Autorun feature itself for our immediate threat intelligence is for every time that we create a template, and these templates are created multiple times a day, sometimes every day, occasionally you might miss a day or two, as well as any templates that a customer would create as well. So you can create your own templates if you had, maybe you have a suspicious file. You're like, I don't know exactly what this is. I want to run it through 3 different tests to see what they all see, right? And now I can, instead of uploading it to this here or uploading it to that, I have 3 tools. They've got great sandboxes. Let me run it through them. You run it, and then it actually comes back, right? So our Autorun works both with customer templates as well as simulate templates that are produced. The other thing we have is attack surface management, which is always running as well. That's external. And it's about visibility into your external environment. But specifically to your question itself, looks like yep, it failed. Cool. It looks like it's done. You can actually go to that right here. So what we'll see here is we ran this one. Am I still there? Yep. And let's see. This is the one we just ran. Nope, that's not. Hold on. Let's go back to the reports. Go to my history. Get the sign. There we go. Let's go ahead and find this here. You can see at the very first step, it looks like I was stopped. Yep. So I tried to use a control panel stager, and what that specifically that I was trying to do was right here, right? It's the MITRE technique itself. What we're trying to do is create this. Now, it did not allow me to do it. And so I was stopped at the very first step. But if I wanted to look at and run a lot more, like I said, is I can run 300 or 400 or 500 at the click of a couple buttons. 300 out of the box, one button, and you're running 300 different ransomware scenarios. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that's actual on your production environment. We're taking all the steps. We encrypt the data. There's a step you can actually see here. We actually show you, if we make it all the way this, we actually give you the encryption key as well, right? Another thing that the attackers don't do, they don't just hand over an encryption key for free. They like to hold those things if they ever hand it over, right? Is
Right.
you get it right there, and then you can actually look and see all the files themselves. So in this case, there was no files that were encrypted, and so there's nothing going to appear here. But this is how we do it. Now you can go back and you can go directly to the folder. In the folder itself, if I'm able to get there, you can go back and check that folder. If it's encrypted, you can apply that key, and you don't have to take our word for it, but it shows you, yeah, you actually are vulnerable to that particular ransomware attack, right? There are hundreds and hundreds of different types of different variations, and we run those in your environment.
So I guess I misunderstood. I thought you said that the tool, as part of the setup, actually creates 50 dummy files and then encrypts those and makes them. So why would you
It
want the key
does.
to decrypt? Just to work
It's
for your incident response process and recovery
it's
practice?
it's twofold, right? It's one, we're showing you don't trust us, right? Validate that
Yeah.
we're actually doing what we say we're doing. So,
Oh, sure,
right,
sure,
so that's
sure.
kind of that built in, and then yeah. So the second one is you can run these things in that particular one. I would not suggest it would be a different one that you would run a ransomware for incident response to say, all right, now let's see, make sure that all of the processes that we built, we actually still follow, right? Okay, we've
Hmm.
got the key itself. Now let's go and decrypt the different things, right? Make sure that you follow all the right processes. That would be our full kill chain campaign, which
Hmm.
will it lasts a lot longer, as in the files, the structure itself will last a lot longer, as opposed to the one we just ran, the endpoint. It's a few minutes, and then it's deleted off disk.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
And so I know one of the questions that people in the audience might have. I certainly don't have it because I'm looking at this for my own company. But is there like a freemium version, or how like can people play with this, or what? How accessible is something like this?
Yeah. So we actually do. We offer free POCs at any point in time. You just reach out to the Simulate website itself. You click free POC. You actually are running by yourself. You don't need us. It creates your own tenant. You can go and play with it for 2 weeks. We'll probably reach out to you. And again, you can tell me. You can give me the Heisman if you want, but you'll get access to a limited set of our
Oh,
different
you want me to show that?
models.
Yeah.
Uh, Let me just go ahead and there we go. So you'll get access to a limited set of the modules. You'll get phishing awareness, email, web, WAF, endpoint, and DLP. Those are the modules you get access to. You can then log in, you can play with it, but we will walk you through exactly how to do it. And then you get to play with it for a few weeks, right? Does it meet your use case? Does it make sense for your organization? Does it make sense for you guys? From a incident response perspective, I stopped sharing there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do all of these things make sense for your organization, right? Do you have budget for something like this? But yeah, you can go ahead and play with it without any interaction from me or my team at all.
Yeah, and I think that Bob, this answers your question about there being a light version. I mean, you can use this. I mean, I'm telling you guys, like, I really passionately feel strong about the philosophy of continuous security control validation and the value of it. So this is like the half the reason I'm bringing Arien on is because this is tooling that I believe in and that I'm using. So just from a philosophy perspective, other
Yeah.
people, we could have a whole conversation about different philosophies on how to do this, but I think it's awesome. Arien, let me give you, this is a new thing I've been doing with my guests. Let me give you an opportunity to say whatever you want, kind of like a send off. You're a big
Sure.
farewell, and then I'll send you to the green room, and I'm going to talk to these guys about what's coming up next.
Okay. So I'm not going to talk about the company whatsoever. You've already seen enough about there. what I want to do and talk about very specifically is, and hopefully you've seen it, you've heard it in my voice, you've heard it in Gerald's voice, is security posture as a program, right? I want you all to adopt security posture as part of your overall cybersecurity program, right? Today, we all probably do once a year pen test. That is probably the limit or the small amount of cybersecurity posture assessment that you're doing. So please, please, please look into how do you build out a cybersecurity posture program, and then how you manage that. There's definitely different things within that. Simulate, we are something that falls underneath a cybersecurity posture program, and we want to help you build that. But again, we're a tool set. We do believe that it has to start with culture. It has to start with mindset, right? So that's what I want to leave you with. Look up cybersecurity posture management, cybersecurity posture program, and go please do it so that, we're out there securing every single day. Gerald, thank you so much. Everyone else, thank you so much. Great questions, and look forward to hopefully talking again soon.
All right, great, Arien. Thank you so much. We'll see you. All right, everybody. I really hope you got value out of that. Let me do this little outro music. I hope you got value out of that. I personally, like I said, I'm all about this continuous security validation because I think it's important, especially for me to know with a small staff, like where I need to focus my energy and how is my hospital gown open in the back. If you guys don't know already, first things first, every morning I'm doing this cyber threat intel briefing. Tomorrow it's Friday, 8:45 a.m. It'll be a little later. It's normally 8 a.m. We're in there. We're having a good time. We're giving you everything you need to know for the day ahead of you what the cybersecurity news are, and then I give my professional reflection and analysis of each story as we go. It's a good time in there. I hope to see you. We're going to have Philip Wiley on next week for the live stream talking about penetration testing in the modern security environment. It's going to be a good time. As always, I love you guys. You are wonderful. Keep strong and stay secure, and we'll see you soon.